Greetings and blessings. You're listening to the special International Podcast Day edition of the Travelogue Media podcast. I'm Jason Claral, podcasting from Quetzaltenango, Guatemala. So for those of you coming to this podcast for the first time, I'll do my best to describe what it is I do. As I mentioned, I'm podcasting from Guatemala. I podcast in both English and Spanish. A bit more on that in a moment. But first, let me rewind to January 2016 when I started the podcast. At that time, I was living in St. Thomas, which is part of the United States Virgin Islands. And of course, St. Thomas is a major tourist destination, a place to take your vacation, relax on the beach, and so on. But what I wanted to do with the podcast was show that St. Thomas and other islands in the Caribbean are really much more than that. People who live there, who have roots there, really have a lot to say about their history, their relationship with the U.S. The U.S. Virgin Islands are unincorporated territories, and about their own lives. So I really wanted to share that with a larger audience and present an image of the island beyond the white sandy beaches. Now, fast forward to May 2017, when I arrived in Guatemala. I decided for a whole long list of reasons I won't go into now that I was no longer interested in living in the United States. So why Guatemala? Why Quetzaltenango? Well, as it turned out, I interviewed a friend who had spent a month studying Spanish here and really had a great experience. She recommended the school, and I thought, well, why not? And nearly 2.5 years later, here I am. Clearly, the podcast has changed. I don't put out episodes weekly as I had been when I started out. It's a bit difficult to document the lives of Guatemalans without fluency in Spanish, so it's a process. But what I lost in quantity, I hopefully made up for in quality, but you can judge that for yourself. I've interviewed all kinds of people, herbalists, journalists, academics, politicians, DJs, musicians, writers. My most recent guest was dancer and choreographer Heather Robles. Let's listen to a short clip.
It's something that is very important to me, and I haven't been completely certain why. And now that I'm traveling again with Suzanne Ponomarenko Dance, it just becomes more and more clear to articulate, and that's to connect with people around the world. Dance is universal, and the issues we face as human beings are also universal. We very often in the United States tend to be in a silo, especially where I live in New York. It's its own universe, and you can be as closed in into your universe as you want, actually. So to step outside of that and to connect with people around the world, it expands my sense of the world, of my community, and community is very, very important to me. It's very important to all of the people that I work with. It's very important to the company that I'm dancing with right now, Suzanne Ponomarenko Dance, and it's important to me in all of the work that I do.
So please check out the rest of that episode and some of the other previous episodes. And if you speak Spanish, I have a separate podcast for those episodes. You'll find all the links in the show notes. And while we're on the subject of Spanish podcasting, let me just give a quick shout out and some recommendations. Union Podcastera, which is part of La Liga.fm, La Liga.fm podcast network. Lots of good podcasts there. Also, be sure to check out Los Búfalos Nocturnos from Podium, another great network. And if you're still not satisfied, you can subscribe to Podcasteros, an industry newsletter from Martina Castro. She's been doing lots of great work in the world of Spanish language podcasts. If you're listening to this on a platform other than your preferred one, or if you're new to podcasts, I'll just briefly run down the list. You can find Travelogue Media on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Acast. There's literally a new platform every 5 minutes these days. But let me tell you about one that actually pays podcasters so you can help support the show simply by listening. When you listen on the Radio Public app, again, look for the link in the show notes, you're supporting all the podcasters who make the shows you enjoy. And it's free. There's really no excuse not to do it. And if you prefer to make a donation to Travelogue Media directly, just go to paypal.me/JSKmedia. And obviously I'm on all the social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I'm not on Snapchat. I'm not on Tumblr. So when in doubt, just Google Travelogue Media. Thanks so much for listening to this International Podcast Day edition of the Travelogue Media Podcast. Please spread the love by using the hashtag International Podcast Day. Support your favorite podcasters. None of us are professional podcasters unless your name is Ira Glass. Most podcasts like this one are passion projects. So if you have a favorite podcast or podcasts, be sure to let the people who make them know you appreciate what they do. Okay, that's it for this International Podcast Day edition. Music was by Ghost or _Ghost, I'm not sure which. Que todo ese amor, walk tall, live free.